This is Phil Williams with the Food Production Podcast. This is episode 74, May 23rd, 2013, and this is part 8, the final part of permaculture design. I hope that everybody's gotten a lot of help with their permaculture design and understanding permaculture design a little better through the first 7 parts. Today I'm going to talk more about actually maintaining your permaculture site. So let's start by talking about pest control. And pest control the permaculture way. Have you ever wondered why if you go to a national park, everything there grows beautifully, and there's no quote-unquote help from anybody. There's no people out there maintaining the national park, but yet everything is just absolutely beautiful at all times. Pest control, for the most part, for most people, amounts to contact and preventative spraying of liquid chemicals, or spreading chemicals that are, or spreading granules that are coated with chemical. The question is, does it work? And it does work to a certain extent. It works to kill the pest initially, but we don't see the bigger picture. It works in that little micro, application. It kills the pest that you're intending to kill. But we don't see that we've gotten on the pesticide treadmill. And the pesticide treadmill, it's when you kill the pests that are attacking a particular plant. And you also end up either killing the beneficial insects also directly or indirectly killing them by taking out their food source. So let's take the example of when you kill the pest and the predator of the pest. When this happens, typically you don't kill all the pests. The ones that survive will be, basically they end up becoming super pests that pass down their super pest resistant genes to their offspring. So the pests will recover, and when they do recover, the predators will not be around to keep their numbers in check because your predator bugs are going to take a lot longer to reproduce. So you'll end up with another outbreak that's worse than the first, which will require more spraying and will produce more super bugs, basically more super pests. So when you're using chemicals, we're upsetting that balance. We're taking on the job that Mother Nature does just fine on her own. So I think that's what a lot of people don't realize when they're thinking about spraying. And I certainly did. I used to, I had a commercial pesticide applicator's license. I was a landscaper for a decade. I know all about spraying, so I did a good chunk of spraying, and I never really put it all together. So what happens when we don't spray and that tree or shrub dies? It's like, I should have sprayed. No, that's not what that means. What that means is it's Mother Nature's way of telling you that you did not put the right plant in the right spot amongst the right plant community for that particular microclimate. Mother Nature basically said, "Don't worry, I'm going to fix that poor design that you did by sending my hordes of insects and disease to finish off those plants. So now that you realize that I showed you the mistake that you made, you can go back with a better design and fix it to be more in line with Mother Nature." So that's basically what happens, in my opinion, when you have a plant die because you didn't spray it. Some of the basics of permaculture pest control. Now, in permaculture we do have pest control, but we're not spraying to get the pest control. It all starts with good soil. If you've got good soil, that solves 90% of your problems right out of the gate. So if you've got really good soil, chances are your plants are going to thrive. Some of them are, they're going to get attacked by pests. Most of them are going to do fine. And, you might have some that don't make it, but the majority of them will. And there'll be some years where the pest pressures are heavier on certain plants than others, and a lot of that is climactic and no way that we can control that. Polyculture planting. That is a great way to deal with your pest issues, not monoculture. You don't want straight monocrop rows of the same plant over and over again. That's basically setting up the grocery store aisles for your pests. So you plant your row of lettuce in one big long row and nothing but lettuce. Your aphids are like, great, we love it. I'm going to call all my aphid buddies and we can all come in and eat lettuce for the next month. And we don't have to worry about accidentally getting lost or thinking that we're getting lettuce and we're getting some other plant that we don't like. But if you're planting in a polyculture, it confuses the pests. It makes it more difficult for them to find the food source, which also makes it much easier for them to be predated on by your predator insects. The next basic of permaculture pest control is to give Mother Nature a chance. You can't just, at the first sign of seeing a pest, you can't run out there and spray. If you do that, I mean, you're going to be spraying all the time, because there's going to be, even in a very well set up permaculture system, you're still going to have pests. It's just you're going to have a system in balance, so the pests don't get out of control. Not to say that they never do. Occasionally they do. Occasionally you lose some plants. It's not the end of the world. So if you do see pests, you got to give Mother Nature a chance and give enough time for the beneficial insects to come in and do their job. Another thing, you can create habitat for your insectivorous birds and amphibians, especially the amphibians. Those are fantastic for your pest control. And then it all boils down to intelligent design. Putting your right plant in your right place among the right plant community. So that's going to give you 99% of your pest control right there. And like I said, that 1% you might lose a little bit, but it's a lot better way in the long run than buying all these chemicals and spraying. Let's talk about weed control, and weed control the permaculture way. And if we're going to be doing weed control, we need to really understand succession. And I described succession, I think, in maybe it was last week or the week before, but succession is really important to understanding how we're going to deal with weeds. And weeds are basically nature's way of repairing a disturbed, damaged, or barren area. And, again, remember how succession works. First the annual weeds come in, then the perennials, then the vines and the shrubs, and then those small, fast-growing pioneer species, and then your final upper canopy climax species. So if we have poor soil, damaged soil, bare areas, quote-unquote weeds they're going to appear. Your annuals are going to appear first, and they're going to take over that area. And they're just trying to do an important job. But we, for whatever reason, want to keep fighting it. Why not fill in those cracks? Like, for example, a lot of times people want to spray Roundup on the cracks of concrete, and the cracks of the driveway where you get little weeds growing in it. Why not fill in those cracks with shallow-rooted plants that we like, things that we want to live there? That way we don't have to worry about other things coming in and growing in the space because we don't have anything. Why not plant ground covers and multi-layer plant communities that are going to crowd out the undesirables, the plants that we don't want? It's also extremely important to get to know the common quote-unquote weeds in your area and understand what they do and decide if you want them or not. A lot of weeds are nitrogen fixers. They're providing insect habitat. They're helping with the soil. They're attracting pollinators. They're nutrient accumulators. They're edible or medicinal. The dandelion is actually a poster child for a weed that has suffered a horrible reputation. I feel so bad for the dandelion. And their reputation is completely unfounded. It's like the weed that everybody wants to kill. But the dandelion is a nutrient accumulator. It aerates the soil with its long taproot. It provides edible leaves and flowers. It's a pollinator attractor. It's a beneficial insect attractor. We should be happy to have dandelions. I mean, it's just craziness that we run around on this campaign to kill every last yellow flower that we see in the yard. Clover is another one of my favorites. It has a bad reputation, but it's a fantastic nitrogen fixer. It's a beneficial insect and pollinator attractor, and it's excellent chicken forage. So I don't know, when I see clover in the yard, I'm happy. The last thing I want to do is go buy some weed control and spray it. So let's talk a little bit about lawn care. And when I say lawn care, I mean lawn care the permaculture way. Lawns have been one of the worst ideas that our society and the landscape industry promotes, and golf courses and everybody else who thinks that lawns are the greatest idea. It actually started, I don't remember the time frame, but a long time ago, 1,000 years or so ago, at the Taj Mahal, where they had these women out with scissors that were maintaining the lawn. And so the English lords said, I want a lawn too, so they maintained it with sheep. And having a short cropped grass in front of your castle was thought to show that you're wealthy. Well, now we don't use sheep, and we're certainly not using scissors, but we're out there with mowers and trimmers, and we've created a an absolute monster of having grass everywhere that literally does nothing for us. So let's take, you take a plot of land, you mow it every week, then you need to fertilize it, then you control the weeds and the disease, and then you're relieving the compaction through aeration, and then you're reseeding it. And what do we get in return for all that work? Not much, in my opinion. So, do you ever wonder, and I used to wonder this all the time, and it used to bug me when I was doing landscaping, and we did a lot of treatments and lawn care, is I used to have yards that we didn't do anything to. And a lot of times in the middle of the summer, these yards would be greener than the lawns that we were treating because they were a polyculture mix of all these different weeds. And I thought they actually looked better. We had, granted it was people they need to understand what's beautiful in natural and landscaping. And I think we've gotten too much to this idea that everything has to be the same. And I think a mixture of plants is much more beautiful than every single blade of grass being exactly the same. But that is the strength of the polyculture. And there's a reason why those plants were doing better in the middle of the summer and didn't need any help. The big difference is the uncared for lawn is closer to a natural meadow type polyculture, while that well cared for lawn is completely an artificial monoculture. And that's absolutely not what we want. So I'm not saying that we should never have a lawn. You shouldn't have a lawn at all. I actually have a little bit of lawn space, but I guess it's really not much lawn space, but it's actually mostly pasture. But the perfect golf course lawn, in my opinion, is not, and I say perfect, I put that in quotation marks. It's not practical. It's certainly not sustainable. And I think it's a complete waste of time and money. Having a lawn area for play, I think, makes a lot of sense. You want to put up a volleyball net, or you want to play soccer, and you want to have a lawn area to do that, I say great, do it. But it can be done in a number of ways that could be cheaper, more beautiful, and less work. So some of the options for having lawn care the permaculture way. You could transform your lawn into more of a mobile meadow, to where you reestablish a wildflower mix, let it get much taller, and you mow it very infrequently. Now, if you're in an HOA, they're probably going to come out and say that it looks weedy and you need to do something about it. But if you're not in an HOA, I would say go to town with that idea. If you are in an HOA, maybe put it in areas that is not as noticeable. But if you are in an HOA where you have to have a lawn, or you have to have an area that's seemingly kept up, you could take back some of the lawn and use it for productive plantings. You could go back to my edibles in the landscape from last week. You could start putting in some of that stuff. Or if you do want to have a little bit of a lawn area and it needs to be somewhat kept, just stop treating it. Stop putting chemicals on it. It won't grow as fast. You don't have to cut it as often. It's you don't have to let the weeds come in, so you have more of a mixture, and that's going to save you a tremendous amount of time, effort, and money. That's what I do with some of my little bit of lawn area that I have. I don't mow it very often. I certainly don't treat it or do anything to it. But so there's nothing wrong with having a lawn, but I think we need to get smarter about how we deal with it. So I hope this series has given you a better understanding of permaculture design. It really, in my opinion, it really is the best design system in existence. Anyways, that's the end of the series. That's part 8. That's the final part. I might make some addendums in the future if I come up with some more interesting parts on permaculture design. But that's going to be it. So I appreciate you listening to the Food Production Podcast.